Yeah, I tried one of your hints on that latest video, Dan, and kept it a little bit mysterious to see if it gets any more traction.
Did you blank out, Dan? Okay.
I'll
I didn't know if you lost signal or not. But yeah, we come home from West Branch. Went back the car into the garage. The garage door wouldn't open. I thought, I kept hitting the remote and it wouldn't open. It wouldn't open. I thought, wow, that's crap. I need a new battery. So I walked through the front door and flipped on the light switch and all our power was out. I thought, oh, great. Nano power. And it finally come on. I don't know. She called. They said it'd be 4 or 5 o'clock. So it come on about 4 o'clock, I guess. So that's why I sent you that text. If power went out again, of course we couldn't have this, but yeah, it's
got a generator. You got a generator?
No, and I told her I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and we're gonna have to do it because normally we very seldom lose power up here. It might flick on and off, but this is the 4th time since summer that our powers went out, but it ain't for a long duration. But in wintertime, you don't want your power to go out. Summertime, you can deal with it. But so, yeah.
You're on a well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can deal with it. You get one flush out each toilet.
Well, I got some water jugs, 1 gallon jugs in the closet just for that reason if we need it,
Yeah, I'm geothermal here, so even my heating, air conditioning, everything is running off the well. So in the wintertime, if I lose power, my heat's out, everything. So I got a generator that I can, it's in the garage right now, and I can wheel out and plug in and fire it up. It'll run the whole house.
Yeah.
Then I had to put one of the larger computer battery backup things, the automatic, APUs or automatic power units that are continuous power, whatever they call them. And put that in the garage and plug the garage door opener into it. So even when the power goes out, I've got enough power to lift the garage door.
Well, I know when I went in, the emergency pull to open the garage door, it must have never been used before. I know I've never had to use it. And the lady that lived here, she must not. I told my wife, I got to get up there and try to get some grease on that rail or something because it was a bear. Hi, Vanessa Kitty. Hey, glad to see you, hon. But yeah, it's.
I used to have to do that. I'd pull the emergency release and then open the door, but I've got a 16-foot insulated garage door, and that puppy is heavy.
Yeah, I bet it is.
So that's why I put the battery backup on it. Now it's good to open it a couple of times anyway, at least to get the generator out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's see my banner up here, don't you? Which way?
See that?
Why would you have that?
I've waited 27 years for that.
And I know you stayed up to watch the game, right?
Every blame minute of it. You better believe it.
What'd you think of Washington? Did you watch the Washington Texas game?
No, but I watched some of it, but I've watched Washington several times this summer. I watched them against Oregon and Southern Cal, and they got a heck of an offense, man. And that just goes to show you how good Michigan's defense is by stopping Pinnock the way they did, because he is a throwing machine.
Oh, just some of the plays that he made, particularly passing, that he made against Texas were just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And he just couldn't do that against Michigan. I think Michigan just had him so off balance.
Well, that's it. He was throwing basically off the back of his feet, and he was overthrowing his receivers by 2 and 3 feet just over their heads. It was, oh, yeah, I was, hey, Michael, smash time. Yeah, I was just enjoying the heck out of that. I couldn't leave it. When it got into that second half, about midway through that third quarter, when it was 20-13, I thought, come on, guys, don't falter when that touchdown that they give them at the end of the first half, 2 defensive interference calls, put them right down on the 3-yard line. Right. I knew they was going to score then. I was sitting on a seat, man. I was just, whew.
Well, that one interception that Penix threw toward the end, again, he had to be rattled because he had a wide open receiver on the other side of the field, but he was so intent on that one receiver who was right in the middle of 3 Michigan defenders.
Yeah, Sanatrill. Yeah, but he's hurt. You could tell because when he was walking off of there, they had his ribs. I hope the kid ain't got a broken rib,
I could not imagine getting hit by those 300-pound guys on a regular basis. Wow.
No, I mean, they didn't really hit him. They only sacked him one time, but he was taking some hits when he was coming through that line now.
Yep. Yeah, he was.
Oh, yeah, I was excited with that one.
Right. So what are we talking about here? Michigan gun laws?
Michigan football. Michigan football, man. What's wrong with you? No. Yeah, that's what we're going to start out with. Harley's got some stuff, and I got that article that I can share on here, but Harley's probably got some better stuff there ahead of him. And
spent the afternoon doing some research, and I killed enough trees to probably deforest a third world country just doing research. See what I get you up on
what you come up with.
Here.
Let's just start with the one. Let's start with let's start with red flag. That seems to be to me, that's the biggest bull in the China shop there. So I've heard some different things about that red flag log. Well, the gun dealer I was talking to said they're trying to revamp that to where if the person that puts a claim in against you, they can give him a misdemeanor.
Well, that's already in the law.
Yeah, that's in there.
Yeah, that it's kind of buried in the back. Actually, that everything else was just an amendment to an existing law, but the Extreme Risk Protection Order is a brand new law, Act 38 of 2023, whereas everything else is an amendment to Act 372 of 1927. Yeah, so here it is: the petitioner who knowingly and intentionally makes a false statement. First offense, misdemeanor, 93, not more than 93 days, $500. Second offense, felony, 4 years, 2,000. Third or subsequent, 5 years, 20,000.
It's going to be hard to prove, though.
Yeah.
The person says, well, this violent gun owner said these things. Now he's denying it, and so I thought it was my duty. It was my duty to let you know this because he's armed and dangerous. But I will mention that is one of the first times that I have seen any penalty against the accuser. And so
it's nice to have it in there. Will it actually stick? Will they actually use it? I don't know.
That's what I mean. It's going to be hard to prove because they're going to say, I thought he was dangerous. I thought that, but it did mention that the court process should be expedited. There's a certain window in which they have to make their case against you. They do have that against the accuser, which is big. But they also look at the background before they order a judgment of confiscation. They look at the background specifically for gun charges. So if it's a repeating person, yeah, they'll be confiscated. If it's someone like us who may have gotten a speeding ticket here and there, that should be denied by the judge, according to what I read.
Infractions anyway.
Yeah, but still, I've pretty much read this whole. I think it's about a 10-page document here today on the Extreme Risk Protection Order. It's actually 10 pages, and there are some things that I can probably live with, but there are some things in here that are just downright wrong. The people who can file the complaint against you are a family member means an individual who's related to the respondent in any of the following: parent, son or daughter, sibling, grandparent, grandchild, an uncle or aunt, a first cousin. It can be a dating relationship, and it doesn't say how long ago. It could be a dating relationship from 40 years ago. That person can theoretically file a complaint. I got a number of things flagged in here that just really, yeah, here we go. Any of the following may file an action under this section: spouse of the respondent, a former spouse. Didn't say, could be, you could be married 10 times and your first one's going to file a complaint. An individual who has a child in common, an individual who has or has had, no time limit here, has had a dating relationship with the respondent. An individual who resides or has resided in the same household with the respondent. I mean, that is so broad.
Very
It's
vague.
concerning. Yeah. The complaint must state facts that show the issuance of the extreme risk protection order is necessary because the respondent can reasonably be expected within the near future to intentionally or unintentionally seriously physically injure himself, herself, or another individual by possessing a firearm, and has engaged in an act or acts that made significant threats that are substantially reported, tongue-tied, supportive of the expectation. Okay, supposedly, but it's really just a preponderance of evidence, which means 51%. It's not any kind of higher standard.
Well, it's basically still an anonymous tip.
Well, the law says that the address of the accuser has to be kept secret, but it doesn't say the name of the accuser has to be.
So that's up to the judge.
Probably. An individual may file an action under this section regardless of whether the respondent owns or possesses a firearm. Okay, fine. Wait a minute. Don't more people get killed by drunk drivers than murdered by guns in Michigan?
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Okay, so you can file a person who reasonably expected to intentionally or unintentionally seriously injure himself or others by possessing a firearm. But wait a minute. Then the next paragraph says you don't have to own a firearm. This was
that makes so you don't own a firearm. What are they going to confiscate?
Well, here's what really bugs me though. You can judge shop in this, or you can court shop because it goes to your local court, but it can be anywhere, any court in the state of Michigan. So you can find out which county has the most liberal judges, the ones who are most likely to just rubber stamp a request. So you can live in Gogebic County and be totally innocent of everything, and somebody gets ticked off at you, one of the classes of people who can file a complaint, and they can go down to maybe Kim Worthy would sign this one in Wayne County. And you got 24 hours to protest, or you're going to go from Gogebic County down to Wayne County to protest it? I got a problem with that.
Oh, yeah, it should be somebody in a general vicinity, would think, but
no, if the respondent is an adult, they can file it in any county in this state, regardless of the residency or location of the party.
Well, if my neighbor has a beef against me and they go vacation in the Upper Peninsula, meanwhile, part of their plan is to file against me, they can do that. That court needs to hear it, and that court could order my guns confiscated without me knowing.
Yep. Now, theoretically, that there's two ways they can do that. Theoretically, they have to give you notice of the charge, and unless it's an emergency order, then you theoretically have your time. I think 24 hours you can come in and protest it. Again, I'm not sure of all the time limits on this. And then if the court issues the order, you have 24 hours to either voluntarily surrender your firearms, or if the court approves it, to surrender your firearms to an approved gun store. And each county has to have a list of gun stores that they approve. But that's only if the judge agrees to do that. And if you don't do it within 24 hours and provide evidence to the court that you've done that, then you're in contempt of court. In addition to the fact they're going to come take your guns. I don't know. They can also, any evidence of an acquisition or attempted acquisition within the previous 180 days by the respondent. Well, but this is one of the criteria they can use. So you buy a gun 6 months ago, 179 days ago, and somebody gets ticked off at you, and that's the only gun you've ever bought, you ever own, then, oh, that's evidence that you were going to do something bad. Man, not happy with that. A restrained individual may file a motion to modify or rescind the order during the first 6 months and one motion during the second 6 months. If you file a second motion during either 6 month period, the judge may just well toss out your motion, not even listen to you.
That's after confiscation.
A restrained individual must prove by a preponderance of evidence that the restrained individual, that's the person who's the subject of the order, no longer poses a risk. So again, you're having to prove your innocence.
Right.
You're having to prove a negative. How do you do that? I mean, this is against the Constitution in so many ways. If the court issues the order, the court shall determine whether the respondent must immediately surrender or surrender within 24 hours. And once they do that, if the court orders the firearms immediately surrendered, they also shall issue a search warrant. But they may allow you 24 hours to turn it in.
So they're not going to pound on your door at 4 a.m.
Don't count on it. There's nothing in here that gives a time limit that I could see. Nothing says it's got to be during business hours. And then if the order is issued under the emergency, then a hearing has to be held within 14 days. Wow. Okay. In the meantime, you got to surrender your concealed pistol license if you have it.
Okay, so within 14 days is a hearing.
If the order is issued under Section 7-2, which is the emergency one. Where are we here? 4-7. Anyway, then they can come, like, grab them now. So you live in Gogebic County, or what's up in the Upper Peninsula? Something as far away from Detroit as you can possibly get. Okay, so you're in Marquette County, and somebody issues has the hearing down in Wayne County. You can't very well respond to that. Okay, so now the people in Wayne County have to get a hold of the Marquette County Sheriff and the state police to come take your guns. How are you going to fight that? There's a couple other things I had in here.
Yeah, it sounds like a total nightmare is what it sounds like.
I gotta believe that at some point one of these is going to make it up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is, I would certainly hope, would look at this and say that, wait a minute, we've got a problem here. And here they can also, even if you're not home, they break in because they got a search warrant. If no individual is present at the time of the seizure, the officer shall leave a tabulation in the place where the officer found the firearms that were seized.
So they can rip your safe open.
Yeah, well, if you got a Liberty safe and they call it,
Yeah.
and Liberty gives a combination, right? Yeah, they're just, I don't know. I understand what they're trying to do with that, but what about the right to confront your accuser? What about innocent till proven guilty? I'm just not happy with that. Especially when it can be a former dating partner. Former what, 30 or 40 years ago?
Yeah.
All right, so I've been married a long, long time. So I mean, somebody that I dated in high school could file one of those things.
I would think in their filing, they would have to say when the threat was made. And if it was made 40 years ago, I don't put it past any liberal judge, but I would think they would say, well, that's a bit
Yeah.
back in time. I don't think that would be suitable.
Yeah. So the complaint must state facts that, and of course, facts are what everybody wants them to be these days, right? That
Mm.
show that issuance of an extreme risk protection order is necessary because the respondent can reasonably be expected within the near future to intentionally or unintentionally seriously physically injure himself, herself, or another individual by possessing a firearm and has engaged in an act or acts that made significant threats that are substantially supportive of the expectation. So theoretically, there's got to be some, some articulable facts in there. And if it's false, then that person can theoretically get 93 days in jail. I don't know. I don't know. I can get fired up about it.
Yeah. And then Biden's wanting a national red flag bull crap.
Yeah.
That means the FBI could slide in your house anytime or whatever. I don't know. It's crazy, but that was my biggest fear of all the gun laws is that red flag law.
Well, one of the things that I heard on, I can't remember what state issue this came up on, but again, an extreme risk protection order where a guy was had the order issued against him, and they came and confiscated his all the guns in the house, but a couple of the guns belonged to his wife, and a couple belonged to his son, and they didn't give them back. And they said because he has constructive possession as long as they're in the house. So you're depriving other people of their property, even though they haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, I read that article or heard it on the news where the son lives in another state.
Yeah.
And the son wanted the permission to come down and get his guns,
Yep. Said, nope, you can't have them. And then you got to fight to get them back.
Well, a friend of mine had his guns confiscated. What happened?
Nothing. You're okay.
Oh, yeah, they just threw them in crates, like dropped them on top of each other, just threw them in crates. He said they took the optics off, left the magazines, but everything else they just threw it in a bunch. Fill this crate up, okay? This crate, they just started throwing them in there.
Yep.
Collectibles.
Yeah, and they just throw them in a guarded warehouse or a caged warehouse. No telling what the atmosphere is in there for rust and everything.
Well, and then I can also envision where again some law enforcement official who has a bone to pick with armed citizens is going to say, well, we want to make sure that none of these were used in a crime, so they're going to send them all up to the state police lab, which means they're all gathered together, thrown in a box, trucked to Lansing or the Detroit lab or wherever, so they can test each one. And oh, by the way, they're already backed up 6 months on testing. No, you can't have your guns back because they're at the state police lab. They'll be there for a year or so, knocked around again. I complained to my state rep when they were talking about all this and said a couple of things they ought to do is if you're going to take the person's guns, then you ought to allow the person to put them in suitable containers so they're going to be relatively protected. Now, according to this, if they give you 10 days or 24 hours to turn them in, you can do that. I'm sorry, but some people might not be able to physically get all of their guns together in 24 hours. If you got 2 or 3, no big deal. But if you got a few more than that,
yeah.
I mean, I've got boxes for just the original factory box for just about every gun. And if I don't, I've got some cases to put them in so I can put it all together. But man, again, this is not, it's not considering the property ownership rights of people who are innocent victims in this. It's not considering due process. Aggravating.
Well, that's every liberal's argument is that due process happens when you have your court date after your possessions are confiscated.
The sad part about it, and I remember it just like it was yesterday, one of Trump's things says, we'll take the guns first and worry about due process later. That was
all right. I got to bring this in. I got to bring politics into the, you open the door.
No, that's
you
fine.
Open the door. I think one of Trump's arguments right now, and this whole thing that he's being thrown off the ballot theoretically, and was it in Colorado and is it Maine or someplace or somewhere over there, that he's being thrown off, even though he's never been formally accused, let alone convicted of what they're accusing him of. But yet, the red flag laws are doing the same thing. You're being basically you're being punished, yet not ever having been convicted of anything.
That's right.
So that kind of Trump's kind of arguments are on either side of the fence, depending on what day.
Well, Trump said that.
Go ahead, Dan.
Trump said that, but nothing. He never acted on it.
Right.
Well, no, but the fact is, he did say that right off.
He did
exactly.
say that. Correct.
But he's filing for. They've already got. I guess the Supreme Court's going to take this Colorado case.
Well, they should. And what's the other one that was more recent up in the East Coast? Is that Maine or something?
Maine.
Yeah, where the person who decreed that Trump isn't going to be on the ballot, even though he's never been convicted of what she said he did, she's not a lawyer and she's not even an elected official. She's an appointed official.
Yeah,
where
right.
Does she have the right to do? Where does she have the knowledge to be able to determine without a hearing that Trump led an insurrection? Give me a break.
Right. Yeah, I
don't care if you love the guy or hate the guy. That the rule of law is just being totally ignored here.
Yeah, well, that's the Democratic way, unless it's one of their own, of course.
Yeah.
Look at our southern border.
That's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother story.
How many families are coming across? Or wait a minute, how many fighting age men from other third world countries are coming across?
A whole lot more males than females, I'll tell you that, from what I've seen on TV.
Yeah, is it going to get to the point where there's so much chaos caused by all of it that somebody declares martial law, and when you declare martial law, you suspend the elections? I don't know. Could that happen?
It's been mentioned. That has been mentioned. All right, so let's move on to the long guns.
Yeah, that's one. What I don't. What you dug up.
What I don't understand is I didn't read anywhere that if you have a carry license, that exempts you from a new background check to purchase a long gun.
I will find that for you. I already think I marked it in here somewhere.
Okay.
But there's a couple issues on that one too. Yeah, they amended out of the Act 372 of 1927, they amended MCL 28.421, 422, 422A, 422B, 425B, 432, 428, 432, and 434A. All of those were amended. I didn't get anything else done today besides research. This one talks about what the seller will do. I have to come back to that one in a minute because, again, this is something that's new that I think is going to catch a lot of people off guard. And again, these go into effect February 14th. The following individuals are not required to obtain a license under Section 2 to purchase, carry, possess, or use or transport a firearm. An individual licensed under 5B, which is the CPL statute, except for an individual who has an emergency license issued under 5A4. So if you got a CPL, you don't have to get a permit to purchase it. You don't have to go through a new background check. An individual purchasing a firearm other than a pistol who has had a federal national instant criminal background check performed on that individual by a federally licensed firearms dealer not more than 5 days before the purchase also doesn't have to, but there's no mechanism to prove that you got that federal check. And oh, by the way, FFLs aren't going to just check you for the sake of it. You got to be purchasing a gun from them.
Or they're going to hit you with they can hit you with a transfer fee.
Yep. Well, again, they have to have the information in order to, you can't do the federal form for
4473.
4473. You can't do that unless there's also on that form the make, model, and serial number and caliber of the gun. So how are you going to do a background check 5 days before you purchase a gun when they got to have the information on the gun on the background check?
Right.
And none of that's in there, and dealers can't just do a background check on an individual, not unless they're selling them a gun.
I think the idea there is to get a purchase permit from local law enforcement where they do that right there and then in the records department.
Right. But here's what I think a lot of people are going to end up missing is that the seller is now responsible. You got to go through, basically, it sounds like it's going to be something like the RI-60 with a 3-part form. The seller shall fill out the license forms describing the firearm together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The seller may retain a copy of the license as a record of the transaction, shall provide a copy of the license to the purchaser, and if the firearm is a pistol, the seller shall return 1 copy of the license to the licensing authority. That's all new.
Yeah, that's new. So the buyer, so the licensing authority is now on the seller and not the buyer.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, that's how I'm reading. Again, full disclaimer: I'm not a lawyer. I don't play a lawyer on my YouTube channel. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express recently, or whatever that commercial was. So this is not legal advice.
Yeah, but you are writer's range.
Yeah, hitting a 3-inch plate at 12 yards has nothing to do with being able to interpret the stuff that comes out of Lansing.
Still very impressive. Very, very impressive. I wish you'd stop that, please.
But again, so the onus is now on the seller. But again, if you got a CPL, you're okay. But if you as a CPL are buying a long gun from somebody else, they can sell it to you. If you with your CPL, you as the seller, or excuse me, the seller now, who may not even be a gun person, know nothing about this, is responsible for putting together the 3-part form and sending one of those forms to the local law enforcement agency if it's a handgun. And if it's a long gun, but they've still got to do the forms, they just don't have to send them to anybody. How many sellers are going to know that, especially if they're not gun people?
Right.
Even if they are, how many are going to know it?
I thought about that myself. Come February 14th, who really knows this? There's been zero education about it that I've seen. It's like we passed a law. Passing the law is the easy part.
Yep.
Getting the word out, getting law enforcement on board, getting the state database set up for that. I bet they wanted to register long guns, but they went to the state and said, okay, how do we do this? And the state said, hang on, you want us to know every make, model of long guns out there? You know how hard it was to do that for handguns and continues to be as more and more developed every year? You want us to do that with long guns when somebody could put together a Franken gun and nobody knows really what it is? How's that going to happen?
Yep.
They said, no, we cannot accurately keep records of long guns and shotguns and everything that entails, and do pistols with, we would have to create this whole new department in every community throughout the country, and then even at the state level, so that we could track this, and it's untrackable.
This conversation is going to require me to go get an adult beverage at some point.
Hey, got to do what you got to do. I ain't had one of them in 20 years.
Yeah, I haven't had one in probably a week or so, but I think I've got a 12-year-old Scotch upstairs that might be calling to me when we get done, if we keep this up.
Yeah.
We've really only got one more real negative here to go over. That's actually not all that negative, but I do have, when we get done with that, I've got a fun, sort of positive one too.
Go ahead.
You want the positive one before we get to the last negative?
Up to Don, it's his chat.
Do what now?
Right, so we still got one more. Actually, there are 4 Michigan gun laws going into effect on the February 14th, and we've talked about 2 of them. The fourth one, the thing about domestic violence issues, is probably not as big a deal, but we got the one on safe storage also.
Right.
And that's got a whole lot. And again, this is just an amendment of that 1927 Act, but it's got and this one's only short. It's only a page and a half, so it's a little simpler.
Let me go out to the side chat for a minute and give a shout out to some of these folks that's out here. We got, of course, Vanessa Kitty, Smash Time, Michael, Bim Freedom, Tactical Rabbit. Steve's Woodworking just showed up. Hi, Steve. And Boomstick Revenge just showed up. Glad to see you guys. Glad you could come in. Yeah, it's that safe storage thing. I mean, if a guy's a gun owner, I mean, I know it using common sense, but they should know to keep their guns locked up. It's a shame that you have to have a law saying if you got small children in the house, you got to lock your guns up.
Well, this one actually goes a little beyond that. I found something here that I haven't heard others talking about that concerns me a little bit. The first simple part, and this is Michigan Compiled Laws 28.429. It's a new one, even though it's an amendment of Act 1927, it's something they stuck in there. An individual who stores or leaves a firearm unattended on premises under the individual's control and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall do one or more of the following: either store the firearm in a locked box or container, or keep the firearm unloaded and lock the firearm with a locking device that is properly engaged to render the firearm inoperable, etc. So I mean that we kind of expect that.
Right.
But the one that caught me by surprise, an individual who enters onto the premises of another individual and stores or leaves a firearm unattended on those premises, and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present, etc., etc., etc. So, okay, you go to a friend's house, and the friend's got adult kids, and they're all gone, but happens to have a kid who's mowing their lawn. You don't even know about it. You get in there, you set your gun down because you're having just a nice conversation. You want to take your gun off, be more comfortable. And the kid walks in, sees your gun, and takes it and goes away. Should you have known that there was going to be somebody coming in? It's a friend's house, not even your house.
So unattended means, I would guess, that you leave the room, though.
Well, but it doesn't
So
say
if you
that.
have it on you, that's attended.
Right, but if you set it down on the coffee table next to you and you turn and talking to your friend, the kid sees the gun, grabs it, and walks out. You don't see it, 2 feet from you. Can somebody say that's unattended? I would think
That's
so.
bad parenting.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that the little things they could catch you on here. An individual is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by not more than 93 days in jail or $500 fine in both if they violate the subsection, etc. If both of the following occur: a minor obtains the firearm, and the minor does either of the following: either possesses or exhibits the firearm in a public place, just possess it in a public place, or possesses or exhibits the firearm in the presence of another person in a careless, reckless, or threatening manner. If that person who gets the gun inflicts an injury, then it's 5 years and up to 5 years as a felony, and or $5,000 or both. If that person inflicts a serious injury, then it's 10 years and $7,500. If they inflict death, then it's 15 years and $10,000 or both. But again, just you walk, like I say, you walk into somebody else's house, you set your gun down for a minute, you turn your back, somebody grabs it. You didn't expect an 18-year-old to be there, but maybe the homeowner didn't tell you. I mean, I can see where they can hang you to dry on a lot of stuff on this. Again, it's smart storage and protection of your firearm. You should never lose track of I mean, my gun's either on me or it's in a locked container, period. But still,
I don't like the law. I don't like the law, but I don't think I've ever been to somebody's house and just taken my gun off my hip.
no. But how many people have?
I can never remember I'm sure it happens. I know it happens. I've never experienced it. I've never had somebody at my house take their gun. I've had people show guns, but most of the time those are unloaded.
Right.
But I understand what they're trying to achieve. And I think I can point out your good thing, the one good thing that you have, but I'll wait to hear what you have to say before I say what I think it is.
Well, right now, the good thing has got
But
nothing to do with Michigan, but
it has to do with safe storage laws then.
no,
Okay,
I
then
don't
I'll
really
go
have
ahead and
anything.
say it.
Safe storage laws, I mean, to me, it should be common sense. It should be. And,
Sure.
this came up big deal after the Oxford shooting.
That's exactly where this all stems from, I believe.
And all of this under, I got to get my last rant in here. Then I'm going to shut up. I've said enough already. All of this because the governor, when she signed a lot of these, except for the red flag law, she signed the others back on in April. April 13th it was, as a matter of fact. These are common sense gun laws, and she was billed as signing violence prevention legislation. None of this is going to prevent violence.
Right.
I
All right,
knew
I'm
when
shutting up.
Republicans lost the House and the Senate that last election, I knew some of this stuff was going to come down the pipe. Because she basically campaigned on this crap.
I'll tell you what's coming down the pipe. Mail-in voting will prevent Republicans from gaining access to Lansing. That part I am convinced. Mail-in voting.
I could be wrong, but I thought the Constitution said that there should be a day to select the president or to vote for the president. A day. Mail-in voting, early voting, that's not a day anymore, because I guess it all depends on what the definition of a is, right?
Well, I could see absentee ballot because me and my wife use it. We never did until COVID hit. But we have to actually go to our township hall, present our driver's license, sign an affidavit that this is who we are. They mail it to us. It just ain't mailed out to everybody. I got one guy that comes in the store, and at the last presidential election, he got 4 ballots in the mail.
4 ballots or 4 applications?
4 ballots.
Really?
I told him.
No, I heard a lot of
Did you take them
stories
back to the township hall? No. He said, I voted for Trump. That's all I cared about. Well, what you do with those 3 ballots? You burn them or whatever,
Sell them.
Yeah.
I sell them to the highest bidder. For 14 years, I was in charge of elections at my township here when I was township clerk. And my overlapping careers, I was still also law enforcement at the time. But initially, I was all in favor of absentee ballots because when I first took over, you had to, like you said, you had to come in and prove who you were. And you had to meet certain criteria, either 65 or older, or going to be out of the voting jurisdiction on election day, unable to return to vote,
Right.
or incapacitated in some way. You had to have a reason for it. And I said, let's just get rid of reason. Let's just do it. Once they implemented that, and I looked at how it is abused,
Yeah.
wow. That got me rethinking the whole thing. I don't know if I told you this story before or not, but under the MOVE Act, the Military and Overseas Voter Effort. In fact, it happened in our township. There's a family living in Costa Rica with a post office box in Miami who claims to have lived once upon a time in Dexter Township, although we could never prove it. And they never had to prove it. And they would, by email, request a ballot, and we would have to send them a ballot. A couple of years ago, one of their kids turned 18. And again, they're living in Costa Rica, and the ballots and everything get sent to a post office box in Miami. Their kid turned 18, registered to vote by email, and we had to send them a ballot. We don't know who this person is, and we don't know if they're not doing that for 1,000 other jurisdictions.
Right.
I think I like the whole idea of what was it, Iraq, where they had to vote in person and show your purple thumb. Let's get back to that.
Yeah. Well, they call it voting rights. They say, "Oh, well, you're trying to strip us of voting rights." And they steal the narrative and say, "Well, voting rights is for the integrity of the election." No, it's for the fraud of the election, but you framed it in a way that sounds really good, but it's total fraud. But let's get back to the safe storage because I want to mention this. The only good thing is that they removed the tax off of safes.
They had talked about it. That must have been under some other bill somewhere, because it didn't show up under the amendment to the Firearms Act.
I hadn't heard of that other than they had mentioned it.
Yeah, I have heard of it, but I don't see it here.
Going to really despise this state in a big way.
Yeah. Of course, you go to Cabela's and buy a gun down there, and you look at their trigger locks. Yeah, give me a break. It may meet the yeah. How many people can use that to lock their gun back up? Nobody.
I was just talking to somebody. They got delayed at Cabela's. So, when you get delayed, you go back 3 days later and said, did anything come back? No, nothing came back. Okay, I would like to purchase my gun. They are to proceed. Cabela's goes above and beyond the regulation, if you will. And they say, well, once you get delayed, we at Cabela's wait 30 days. That's what this person, I would call him a friend. I know him pretty well. He said, 30 days. You want me to wait 30 days? Yes, that's our policy. I never heard that. I was kind of shocked. I said, that is so anti two-way. I can't even believe it.
Somebody at corporate thought they saw maybe they had too many adult beverages when they read that, and they saw the 3 and there was a ghost 0 next to it somehow.
Yeah, it's possible.
Well, I had heard that from some states and not really enacted it, but there was some other. I think Dix's was like that there when before they quit selling guns too. I think they had a policy where they wouldn't. They held them for so long, but of course they got out of handling firearms altogether.
Well, I gotta stay employed as long as I can, part time by my local FFL, just to stay on the good side with somebody.
Right.
I can see when I come in there and I'm 90 years old, I still want to be able to get one.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy I met last week up in Harrisville is a pretty nice guy, and I'm going to use him kind of a backup FFL if I need one. I got one guy over in Oscoda that I really like. He's former chief of police up there. I guess, according to the guy at Harrisville, he retired this past summer, doing his gun things full time.
Okay, so domestic abusers are to be disarmed and unable to purchase a firearm. Is a domestic abuser somebody who has a restraining order against them, or is it somebody who has been charged as domestic abuse?
Well, you're going to make me dig in here. That's the one thing I did not research today because I ran out of time. Okay. Now you got me curious.
Let me see if it's in this article. Let me go to the screen share. God, I can't see it.
That's the article I saw, Don. I read that.
Huh?
I read that article.
I thought I seen something in here that had something about domestic.
Right. I haven't dug into it very far yet, but this is Senate Bill 471 and 528 and House Bill 4945 suspends access to guns for those convicted of a misdemeanor involving domestic violence.
Okay, so you have to be convicted of a misdemeanor.
Won't be allowed to access guns for 8 years under the legislation signed by Gretchen Whitmer on Monday, and this was dated November 20th. So that means that right before Thanksgiving, she signed that one. I haven't found the actual statute yet. I don't know if anybody's got a link to that statute. I can. Oh, here we go. Domestic violence, Senate bill. That's October. Let's see if that links to a final product here.
Well, Steve made a good point in the chat. He said you can call your grandma And if the cops are called, you could get a domestic, or you get a domestic. That sounds kind of harsh. So if the cops are called,
Well, you can yell at your grandma.
yeah, I didn't say that.
Senate Bill 470.
Yeah, there's something about that domestic abuse that I think there's a lot of wiggle room there. That goes back to a false accusation, potentially.
471. Let's see if this will actually come up with something. All right, this is the Public Act. Here we go. Enrolled Senate Bill 471, which became a public act. Except as provided in subsection 2, a person convicted of a felony shall not possess or use. Okay, we got that. Person convicted of a specific felony. A person convicted of a misdemeanor involving domestic violence shall not possess, use, transport, sell, purchase, carry, ship, receive, or distribute a firearm or ammunition in this state until the expiration of 8 years after all of the following exists. The person has paid all fines imposed for the violation. The person has served all terms of imprisonment imposed for the violation. The person has successfully completed all conditions of probation imposed for the violation. So 8 years after your probation has ended, the person who possesses, uses, transports, sells, purchases, carries, ships, receives, etc., in violation of the section, guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment of not more than 5 years. All right, we get
Harsh.
this page out of here somewhere and get back to where we were. I'm certainly no supporter of domestic violence, but again, it to be convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence, and again, I'll go back to stories of the police academy when I was still teaching back there last century. The state curriculum had people come in from women's shelters that were approved by the state to talk about domestic violence. Okay, that's good. A cop needs to know about that stuff. But they were teaching the recruits in the police academy, if you go to a domestic violence situation and the guy complains the woman beat on him and the woman complains the guy beat on him, you have to arrest the guy. Period.
Yeah.
That's what they were teaching police officers. Not, wait a minute, we got to sort this out. No, you have to arrest the guy no matter what. And again, I saw so many times that that someone would complain about domestic violence, and then you arrest them, but oh no, they're beating on the cops for arresting the person. I don't support striking any kind of domestic partner, particularly female. Okay, I'm an old guy. Do not ever hit a female for any reason, any way. Period. But still, I don't know. 8 years on a misdemeanor.
That's a long time.
I remember, of course, it's a show that you don't know how factual it was, but you guys remember the show Cops that used to be on TV?
Oh, yeah.
I used to watch that, whether actual cops, who knows, but it was a domestic thing where the husband hit the wife, but he also had a cut where her fingernails got him, and they arrested both of them.
Yeah. And again, good cops will do that. But again, when they're teaching police recruits, no, if they, regardless of what it is, you always arrest the guy. And then 8 years. I don't remember anything in the United States Constitution or the Michigan Constitution that says if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor, then you are without your constitutional rights for 8 years. But elections have consequences.
Absolutely.
Yes. Mail-in voting has consequences.
Well, and there again, everybody's saying that. Wait a minute, how many millions of gun owners are there in this country and how many hundreds of millions of guns there are that aren't hurting anybody. But yet, well, we gotta go after those mean gun people because they might hurt some. Let's go after the people who actually cast ballots without thinking and end up getting people elected who have done more damage and more harm to people. To me, that you ought to be vetted the same for voting as you are for purchasing a firearm.
Well, I wonder how many of these illegals crossing the border will get ballots.
I just read somewhere that in Chicago, you don't have to be a United States resident now to be a cop in Chicago.
Yeah, I read that too. Yep.
So then, wait a minute, if you can be a cop, okay, you can carry a gun. If you wait, how are you going to get a gun if you're not illegal? If you're not a legal
Well, I said
citizen?
they said those people will not be carrying guns.
Yeah, for how long?
Maybe a year.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I read.
I've seen where state of California last week, they're issuing Medicare to all the illegals out there. I mean, they're going broke and they're spending all this money to provide Medicare and Medicaid to the illegals they got there in California.
Wasn't there some talk in Lansing here not too long ago about issuing driver's licenses to illegals in Michigan?
Yeah, seems like there was one state that did do that. I was talking about it. Maybe it was New York. I forget where it was, but they was talking about giving them driver's license.
Right.
All right.
How long are they going to keep giving them money and housing? At what point do they say too bad?
And cell phones. Yeah, and
Mhm.
kicking veterans out of housing areas so they can put the illegals in.
Such a tragedy.
It was funny. I had Sunday morning or Saturday morning, I was taking a load over to the dump, and I got a temporary sticker in the back of my truck because I've had a handicap placard that you had to hang. Well, I ordered a permanent plate for it. I haven't got it yet. I was going down 65 over to Edmond. You know where I'm going, Dan.
Yeah.
I seen a cop sitting over there by, it used to be the old Family Dollar there next to Victorian and by Big Bob's there. Well, I got up a little bit and I seen him pull out. And he followed me right on around. I made the right turn on Edmond and he made the right turn on Edmond. All of a sudden, lights. So I pulled over and he was getting out of his car. I said, I'm going to open my door because my window, I don't trust that old truck, that window being able to roll back up in the wintertime. So he said, no problem. So he come up to me, he says, oh, I see you got a temporary plate or a temporary placard in your truck. He said, I couldn't see it because kind of tinted windows and stuff like that. I said, yeah. And I showed him my placard that you hang in the window. And I said, I've applied for a permanent plate. He said, okay. He said, do you have any firearms on you? Yeah, I have CPL. Of course, I had the CPL and driver's license out for him. He come back and did his run. He said, okay, just want to give you a warning. He said, but you know, and I know, and the minute he said this, he says about the firearm, he says, you know, I said, yeah, I'm supposed to notify you right off the bat that I have a firearm. And I went through all the spiel. I said, but you was talking to me and I was answering your questions and I just didn't do it. He said, no problem. He said, you know, it's just a warning, you know, on your placard. Well, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about it until I get the plate, but he's a nice guy, you know.
Yeah.
I have it
Was
on
he a
good
sheriff or a state cop?
State cop.
Yeah, I have it on good authority that there was actually a person convicted of not immediately notifying police in Michigan, not immediately notifying him that he was a concealed carrier and had a gun on him. He waited 48 seconds, according to all the evidence, before he told the cop, and they convicted him because it wasn't immediate.
Yeah. He couldn't help me, but like I told him, I says, yeah. I know what I was supposed to do, but you was asking me questions and we was talking back and forth. And that slipped my mind, I guess.
I got to admit, I got pulled over a while back. I was late for a meeting going up through a 25-mile-an-hour zone. I know I was doing, I'm sure, 26 or so, or something thereabouts. I don't speed, right? Anyway, as soon as I pass him, I know I'm getting pulled over. So I immediately pulled over, and he pulled over behind me, and I got my hands on the wheel, window down. He came up to the car. Fortunately, mine will go back up, I think. It's an old car, though. He comes up to the car, and I said, just to let you know, I've got a concealed pistol license, and I got a gun. I mean, very first thing, as he's walking up to the car. And his response, "I'll tell you what, you don't touch yours, I won't touch mine."
I've had him
And then,
tell me the same thing.
then he
Done the
asked me what
same
I'm
thing.
carrying,
Yeah.
and we started talking back and forth, but he forgot to give me a ticket. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Do you ever play the I'm a retired cop?
Nope. However, I'll never say it, but I do keep my driver's license in the same wallet my badge and ID are. So when I open, I wait till they get up to the car, and I've been stopped twice. Open the badge or open the wallet case, I'll see the badge. We had to stop down in South Carolina in the Mustang, top down, red convertible coming through a little podunk town. And this is a number of years ago. And turn the corner going down a hill. I see a cop sitting at the bottom of the hill, and in front of him is a sign that says 35. So I'm picking up speed a little bit, and as I pass him, I'm doing 35. He immediately pulled up behind, flipped his lights on, and said, "Son, you know why I pulled you over?" No, I don't. Well, you were speeding. I was doing 35. That's right. You didn't turn to 35 till you got past the sign. And then driver's license registration. So I open the wallet, and he sees the badge, and asked me where's a cop. Said, "You got a gun in there?" And well, actually, no. I said I got to reach in the glove box to get my wallet. He said, "You got a gun in there?" Well, no, the gun was tucked under the seat actually, but I got my wallet out, and well, I can't give a brother police officer a ticket, but y'all got to be careful down here.
Yeah. Well, I seen him getting out of his truck, so I just reached in and got my little card carrier that Tony sent me. I keep my driver's license and my CPL right there, and he had them in his hand before we even did anything else because handed them both to him. So that may be why I give me a little slack on that because I didn't inform him, but he did have my CPL in his hand.
Yeah, I just some of the kids coming out of the academy nowadays, I don't know what they're being taught. I don't know who to trust anymore. I mean, there's people retiring from the department that I was with who didn't even. I mean, they probably weren't in diapers when I retired. And I'm looking at, hey, does your mommy know you're carrying a gun?
Yeah. I went up to the casino one Sunday morning at Mount Pleasant. I was on my way back and come through Shepherd. It's kind of a story along that lines. I can't remember what the highway is to get back on 75 or 20. What's that road there? Not 75, 27. And cop pulled me over, local boy. I mean, he had his sunglasses on. He walked up to the car, had his hand on his gun, and I thought, oh, Jesus, Broderick Crawford's back here or something, you know. He come up to me, said, "Can I see driver's license registration?" Yep, handed it to him. If I call it in, am I going to find anything? I said, yeah, you're going to probably find a speeding ticket on about a year, 2 years ago. I don't know for sure. I thought, well, I'm going to get a ticket. He come back and real polite. He's, well, Mr. Smith, he says, you have a good day and just be careful. That's the only ticket, other than last week, that's the only ticket I have ever got out. And I thought this young pup was going to nail me.
Never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. But when the way he walked up there, I thought, oh, Jesus, it's a ticket for sure. He said I went through a stop sign, which I'm bad about. Well, everybody's got them rolling stops. And this is a little town. I mean, you blink your eye, you're through it, you know?
Yeah, I don't generally go fast anymore. Even when I'm taking road trips, I'm usually at or under the speed limit. I want to relax, take my time. And I had 38 years. I could drive as fast as I wanted to when I needed to. I got fast pretty much out of my system. Well, most of the time. Okay, except maybe when I'm in the Mustang. All right, good. You want good news here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this one or not. This is this actually happened in August is when it came out. Massachusetts judge rules the law against carrying guns across state lines is unconstitutional. And there was an article that I picked up. Where did this even come from? Jake Fogelman, from the Reload. Apparently, Massachusetts and New Hampshire share a border. Is that correct? I think they do.
I think
Sounds
so.
legit.
Yeah, so there's a guy, and it looks like I have to go back and reread the article again here, but I think he was from New Hampshire, and yeah, it says New Hampshire, and he got stopped in Massachusetts carrying a firearm without a license because he didn't. There's no reciprocity there, and he couldn't get a temporary from Massachusetts. They didn't allow him to do that, but they charged him with carrying a concealed weapon. And when it went in front of the Massachusetts District Court judge, he said an individual only loses a constitutional right if he commits an offense or is or has been engaged in certain behavior. Judge Coffey wrote, he doesn't lose his rights simply by traveling into an adjoining state whose statute mandates the residents of their state obtain a license prior to exercising the constitutional right. To hold otherwise would inexplicably treat Second Amendment rights different than any other individual rights held. Therefore, the court finds that it is unconstitutional as applied to this particular situation, the defendant, and allowed the motion to dismiss on that grounds. So the judge is saying just because you cross state lines doesn't mean that you have lost your constitutional right. I heard somewhere that there's a shopping mall that actually straddles the border of Massachusetts and I think New Hampshire. So if you walk into one side of the mall, you're legal. You walk across the middle of the mall, and the other side, you're illegal. You don't lose your First Amendment rights by traveling across state lines. You don't lose your Fifth Amendment rights by traveling across state lines. Why? Just that one right.
No,
So
that's a good point.
I can see. I was excited when I saw this that it came out in August, and I'm hoping that that's picked up elsewhere, because I think it's a real valid point that I'd like to see as an argument on this non-reciprocity stuff.
Do you know? Do you remember? It's been it's been several years ago that young girl and her child went from Pennsylvania, which she had a gun in her car, and got over into New Jersey, and she got pulled over.
Yeah.
And they practically threw the book at her. I never did hear how that one really come out.
She got convicted.
Did she?
Yeah, I haven't heard of any appeal on it, but yeah, she was convicted.
But that's such a travesty, because.
Do you have any reason to ever go to New Jersey? Any good reason to go to New Jersey? Is there one?
I don't. No, that or New York City or Chicago and
New Jersey. If you carry one hollow point bullet in the state of New Jersey, unless it's one of those polymer tipped Hornadies, if it's a hollow point bullet, you've committed a felony, and they'll lock you up.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
I had a couple in my CPL class last week, and I happened to mention that. And the guy said, I never heard of that. And his girlfriend said, yeah, I knew about it because I'm from New Jersey. No good reason to go to New Jersey.
No, New Jersey has the highest property tax in the entire country.
Higher than
By
Michigan?
far. Yeah, way higher than Michigan.
Wow.
Yep. By far. But if you travel from Michigan and you cut through Indiana and you go into Illinois and you're carrying, you're immediately a felon.
Sort of.
I didn't hear you.
Sort of.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the concealed carry reciprocity app that you can get for your phone by the United States Concealed Carry Association?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that travels ought to have one of those. It used to be, my daughter's out in Colorado, so it used to be when I took a road trip, I try to avoid Illinois. But if I'm in a hurry to get out there, I got to go through Illinois. I'd stop at the last exit in Indiana, and we'd drain all of our used coffee, fill up with gas, unload the gun, lock it in a box so I couldn't access it, drive through Illinois at 2 miles an hour under the speed limit. Don't pass go. Don't spend a stinking dime in Illinois. Get to Iowa, gas up the car, get some fresh coffee, and get the gun out. I started digging down in that app, and it actually has links to the state laws. I read the Illinois state law, and it said that out-of-state residents with a concealed pistol license from their home state, not a non-resident permit, but from their home state, can drive through Illinois with their concealed firearm on them in their car legally. Don't get out of your car. Don't stop and get gas, because as soon as you get out and you got that gun on you, now it's a whole different ballgame. But you can drive through without having to now take the gun out and unload it.
I bet a judge made them do that, because those politicians would never want that.
No, but
You know, some pro 2A judge ruled and made that ruling.
yeah, for years I'd have to either avoid Illinois or stop and unload, or a couple times I was in a hurry. I'd have to admit I took my chances, but then when I read that statute,
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Yeah, I agree with you. Don't spend a dime there. You
No.
drive into Iowa and immediately you are paying so much less for gas.
oh yeah. Although, Don, you mentioned having the duty to notify. You know that in Indiana and Iowa, you don't have to notify the cops that you're carrying a gun. In Nebraska, you do.
Oh,
So again, that's the kind of stuff you can pick up from that USCCA reciprocity app.
well, if I was going to Indiana, if I got pulled over, I'd notify them anyway. Just because, you know. At least Indiana's halfway a free state. Some of them states, you definitely got to be careful. I got a cousin that lives on the outskirts of Chicago over by, well, it ain't the outskirts anymore. It's Elgin. And I used to go over and see her, but I don't want nothing to do around that town. I lived in Chicago for 13 years when I was young. I wouldn't go over to that crap hole for nothing.
But neither.
Insight Freedom. Glad to see you. Let me go and check out this, see if I missed anybody. Fluffy 10 millimeter. Make sure I got everybody. Bim, I got him. Nicholas Family Adventures. Just give them a shout out here to let you know we appreciate them being here. All right, guys, it's what, 9:12. So what you got coming up, Harley, other than shoulder surgery?
Yeah, I'm actually toying with the idea of doing just a daily, maybe a short on that every single day, or at least periodically, from a defender's point of view. For the last month or so, I've been trying to think of what do I do with my right hand that I can't do with my left, because my right hand is going to be immobilized for 6 weeks. Right. I've already got a couple of cross draw holsters for left hand that will fit one of the gun that I'll mainly be carrying. I've been practicing with my left hand, but other things. Today I just had to order an electric toothbrush, because you ever tried brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand?
Ooh.
J.J. McCarthy said that he does that regularly because he wants the other side of his brain to work. Okay, that's McCarthy. I can't do what he does.
Right.
But little things like that. Okay, how many people you got watching here on letting secrets out?
We got 9 right now.
I had to buy a bidet seat for the commode, because there are some things that I do with my right hand that I'm not skilled at with my left hand.
Just all the little things. Fully well, I've had shoulder surgery on both of them, and before I had my left shoulder was the worst one, but when I had my right shoulder done, I actually worked on pulling the gun out. I pulled it around where it's not 3 o'clock, and I didn't want it at 4 o'clock because my arms ain't long enough to reach around this big body to get to something. And I sort of pulled almost into appendix position, the holster, practicing, taking the gun out, putting it in backwards, dropping a mag, and hitting the sights on a table or boot or whatever to rack it in, and just go through all of that.
Yeah, I can't get that.
I'm sure you know all about that, but.
So this is from Azula Gun Holsters, and it's actually a cross draw holster that would ride right here, my right side. So I'll have my arm in a sling over it and a jacket over that, so I can still work the gun with my left hand. So
right.
I'm trying to think ahead, but reloading a firearm. Yeah, even simple little things like putting the safety belt on my car. I had to order safety belt extenders because I can't reach far enough with my left hand to get the safety belt fastened.
Right.
So I may do some shorts on, from a defender's point. Oh, I carry OC spray in my left pocket and a knife in my right pocket. Well, right pocket is now useless. So where am I going to carry my knife?
Well, I know when I worked on mine, like once I got the gun out of the holster and I was going to reload it, of course it's slower to put the grip out. So the gun's in backwards. That way you can slip the grip in or the magazine in there and then rack it on a belt or whatever, I worked on that when I had my right shoulder done because I knew I was going to be tied up. Like I said, I couldn't carry it anywhere. I didn't want to put it in the small of my back. So I just peel the holster around the front where I could just pull the gun out and then turn the gun backwards and where the mag just pops out and pop one in and then do your thing.
So
that's
I'm
the way
thinking
I
about
did it.
maybe doing a surgery. It depends on how I feel after surgery. I don't know, but in the meantime, I got a couple more guns I've got to get. I got to get tested. I got to get one of them finished so I can get it back to Dan. Then I've got some ammo from Lost River Ammunition Company. Sent me a few boxes of some different kinds of ammo. I got to test out. Probably do a short video on a couple of those. I've got what's the other thing here? A Siley. Is that how you pronounce Siley? I think it is.
Yeah, Siley.
Red dot. I've got to get a couple of videos out on. I'm going to try to get enough done so that for 6 weeks I don't have to worry about trying to edit using my left hand on the mouse.
Good point.
Guys, let me address this one comment right quick. This is from Jamie from the Reloading Georgia Shooting Connection down in Georgia. Me and Jamie, he's a Georgia man. Believe me, he's Georgia Bulldogs all the way. He congratulated me. Thank you, Jamie. We did it. Insight Freedom's out there too. I just want to give Jamie a quick shout out.
So other than that, I don't have an awful lot coming up. I don't know if I may end up going a couple of dry weeks in there, but we'll see.
I just try to get
talking videos
and put them in your, just put them in the file so you can upload them.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Okay, if I do my usual tabletop stuff, well, I'm using two hands on that. Can I do it with one? Probably. We'll see. It depends on how I feel after the first few days. There's a pain pump that it'll be pumping something into me, and after that, it depends how I feel. I got no shooting leagues for 2 weeks. I'm good there. I got no concealed pistol classes for 2 weeks. 3 weeks. I'm okay there. So I got a stack of books I haven't read yet. I may put on 20 pounds of vegetate and just read books. I don't know.
Well, if it's anything like mine, Harley, because like I said, my left shoulder was the worst one of the batch. You're not going to, after day one, really, there's not a lot of pain. I mean, you'll probably have to sleep in a chair.
Oh, yeah.
You'll probably have to sleep in your recliner, which I'm still doing now because of this blame cough. And Papa's place, how you doing, Les? And but when you're going to really, now you may not run into a problem, but the therapy is total misery. Because he started me actually, because they want you to, like when you're sitting around, just lift your arm, don't lift your arm up this way by itself. Grab your other arm, just kind of get a little movement to it. Well, mine was locking up and he started me on therapy before he really had to because it just wasn't doing right. But that therapy is one, I'd never want to go through that again.
I've heard that from others, yep.
Because they get you just to roll a ball. They put a big ball on the table and have you roll it, just to start working that shoulder. And the wax on, wax off thing like you see on a Karate Kid, they have you doing that in front of a mirror, up and down and all that stuff. Then they start getting into the weight part of it where you're using some force and stuff with it. But first day I went for my therapy, the girl was trying to move it and stuff. And She said, okay, we're not going to do too much today. She said, but when you come in 2 days ago, do you give you any pain pill? I said, yeah, give me some Vicodin. She said, you take 2 of them. But
Well, thank you, Papa's Place. Horizontal belt holster for my knife. I've got a vertical one to go behind the mag lighter, Phoenix flashlight, which is right behind the spare magazine. But yeah, horizontal might be an idea there too. So all these
I
little
wish
things are
somebody come up with a mag holder for something like, where it would be horizontal with maybe the butt sticking out the back where you just pull it out and get it quickly instead of having it up and down,
I've got a couple horizontal mag holders. Galco made them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to carry those when I was working plainclothes.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to go ahead and check that because right now I can't wear them mag holders. They dig into my belly fat, my love handles here.
So Dan, you're going to have to make a couple of trips out here during my recuperation period because I can live vicariously at least. Smell a little gunpowder occasionally.
Well, what I was going to say though is you could make videos on discussion topics and stand there with your shoulder in a sling and just talk about something that is interesting.
Yeah, problem is I rarely think that I have anything interesting to talk about.
When I talk to you, you have both you guys, you have incredible things to talk about.
Yeah, doing it in front of a camera, I don't know. I have to.
I know.
And I appreciate that. Maybe I just have to invite you over here and we'll chat in front of a camera or something. I don't know.
Well, you can
Yeah,
actually
we
do
can
a
do that.
live chat, like we're doing here on StreamYard, and you can record them where it's not live. Like
Okay.
me and Dan did on a couple of those, what we really think videos. We just didn't have it live. We recorded it just like we was in front of a camera, except then you just put some of them out if you wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, I've got to get some ambition up to do something. Just thinking about this whole thing and all the limitations I'm going to have. It's I don't know. It's not leaving me in the mood to do a whole lot right now. In
Yeah.
fact, tell you what little I've done. I just moved the tractor yesterday so I could get the generator in the front of the garage. The mower deck is still on the tractor. First time in the 33 years that I've had that tractor, well, 32 years, that I have not taken the mower deck off and put a snow blade on it. So if we get too much snow, that something my 4-wheel drive won't go through, I'm staying in.
There you go. Yeah, you want to be careful if you get out in that weather anyway with that arm in the sling, because if you slip and fall,
That's how the
how
whole
people
thing started. That's how it all started.
Yeah.
And I rolled onto my shoulder because twice I've fallen and braced myself on the wrist, and twice I've broken my wrist. So this time I rolled on my shoulder instead of breaking the wrist. I'm thinking, gee, if I'd have broken my wrist, I'd have been healed and recovered by now.
All right.
Stupid.
I got tangled up here. I was back in summer, letting the dog out in the morning before I go to work. I got tangled up in her leash, and my big carcass right in the middle of the floor just got tangled up, and I didn't try to stop it. I just fell over on my shoulder. Of course, my shoulder would bother me and everything, but yeah, it's when we get our age, them falls don't feel too good.
So Dan, what are you going to be able to bring up and entice me with while I'm recovering that you can talk about?
I got the new car. I'm going to talk about that on my live chat tomorrow. I'm not going to show anything, but we can check it out.
What time are you doing that? I've got my shooting league tomorrow evening.
I'm going to do it about. I've got scheduled for 7:30.
Yeah, still be at the range.
I'll watch for it then.
I appreciate that. And then who knows what comes up? I'm going to spend some time with Beretta in Vegas, and I'm hoping to gain a relationship there and perhaps get in on some new stuff. We'll see.
Have you shot the Beretta Cheetah, the new Cheetah?
I have not.
That was a fun little gun. They're pricey, but
Yeah.
it was an interesting little gun.
Yeah, I was combing through the Beretta site, and man, they have a lot of firearms that nobody knows they have. A lot. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow.
Oh,
I'll
cool.
have to watch after the fact.
Or are you going to help me sign in red dots?
I'll do that left-handed.
Okay. I'll trust your judgment, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're a lot better at it than me and Dad is, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got to remember when I was doing that PPC competition and we were shooting almost a third of our shots, double action revolver at 50 yards. If I couldn't hold a 3-inch group at 50 yards, I was out of the running.
Right. Yeah, you got to
Crazy.
fill that black dot up, or that black circle up.
But not quite as easy now. That was half my life ago. The eyes were a little better. The hands are a little steadier.
That's crazy. That's incredible.
Reloading from the hot pot. Welcome, Gene. Glad you stopped in. All right, guys. I guess we could prepare to shut this thing down. I got one thing to do here before we do.
I know what it's going to be.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Do you really?
Yep, I know. And we did not talk prior, but I know what's coming.
No, nobody could know that.
I know it. I'm going to put it in the chat. Hang on. Can I put something here? Join the
Yeah.
chat. Okay. Connect to comment. Okay. I'm going to
All
put
right.
it in here
Where's it at? I got to find it.
and you watch. I will.
Comments up here. Let's see.
I'll just put it in the private chat because this is a big.
That's what
to
I'm looking
do
for.
here. All right. I'm
All
going to
right,
say
I got-
what it is.
Got to move my screen here. All right. So I get the private chat.
Okay. Now, Harley, you see the private chat, right?
Yes, I do.
All right, Don, do not look at the private chat, okay?
Okay, let me get out of it then. All right, I'm out of it.
All right, you see what I just said there?
Yeah.
That's
All
what's
right.
coming next.
Let's find out. Got to.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't hear it?
Oh, did you hear it, Harley?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, Don, I don't even know. I didn't hear it, but go ahead and look at the private chat. Don't forget, you've got your ears on, your microphone's behind you.
I think he's using his computer mic, I think.
Well, anyway, let's see if you was right. There you go. Had to do that. Had to do that. All right, guys. Oh, don't start coughing now. We're going to say goodnight to everybody. And 2 weeks, we'll have another one of these chats. Of course, Ryder won't be with us. But,
2 weeks from tonight, I will still be. Wait, what's 2 weeks from tonight?
20,
Tuesday, right?
27th, 23rd.
Well, am I getting a 23rd? Yep. That happens to be. Get my calendar there. Yep. I will probably not be thinking of much of anything 2 weeks from tonight.
But any of you guys over in the side chat, there's a link to my email down below. If you'd like to be on one of the chats, email me your email so I'll have your email. Like these are the only 2 rascals I got in there right now. So just click on that link and send me your email, and that way you can join me some night. With that, we're going to say good night and thank you guys all for stopping by. I appreciate you guys. And with that, good night.